Welcome to Back to Basics. This is Professor Parag Deshmukh. I'll be taking you through basics of marketing. The thought process is if we go back to basics and understand the basics once again, we can get an inspiration to cope up with post COVID blues what we have in our business. So let's look at marketing. Scholars say that marketing is all about creation and delivery of standard of living. We take this as an inspired and insightful view of purpose of marketing. And in today's class, we will be covering two basic questions. What are the core concepts that underlie the discipline of marketing? And what are the basic tasks performed by marketing managers? So let's understand what is the definition of marketing. Marketing is a social and managerial process by which individuals and group obtain what they need and want through creating, offering and exchanging products of value with others. This is the standard definition of marketing. In this definition of marketing, it rests on the following core concept: need, want and demands, products, value, cost and satisfaction, exchange, transaction and relationships, markets, and marketing and marketers. We will be studying these concepts and understanding what exactly are the basics, because these small starting points are very crucial sometimes to generate or to create some good strategies. So let's start with the basic concept of need. Marketing thinking starts with the fact of human needs and wants. People need food, air, water, clothing, and shelter to survive. Beyond this, people have strong desire for recreation, education, and other services. They have strong preferences for particular versions and brands of basic goods and services. Right? So, the useful distinction can be drawn between need, want, and demand. So, let's understand what is need. A human need is a state of felt deprivation of some basic satisfaction. People require food, clothing, shelter, and safety, belonging, esteem, and few other things for survival. These needs are not created by their society or by marketers. They exist in the very texture of human biology and human conditions. Let me give you an example. Let's say it's very hot outside and you are moving in sun. Your throat is all dried up. Now then you are thirsty. You're thirsty for water. Any kind of liquid will do. Right? That's a basic need. That's the basic need. So let's look at what is want then. Want are desire for specific satisfiers of these deeper needs. Specific satisfiers. I am thirsty for a chocolate milkshake. Chocolate milkshake is made. Now, when I have a want or I need a specific satisfier to satisfy my want or deeper need, as we call it, I can charge premium because it's a specific satisfier. But if it's a need, I should not charge premium. Why so? Because it may look like unethical practice in some people's mind. So we should be very clear what is it that we are targeting. Are we targeting need or are we targeting want? Now we have need and we have want. So what? Should marketing target need and want? Just need and want? No, there is one more concept, that is demand. And what is demand? Demands are want for specific products that are backed by an ability and willingness to buy them. So I have a need, I have a want for a chocolate milkshake, but I don't have money to spend. Or I have money, but I don't want to spend. Both the cases, I am not able to get that chocolate milkshake. That means there is no demand for that product. So we say that want for a specific product backed with money and authority to spend that money, gets converted into demand. And that is what we as a marketing person are targeting. These distinctions, they shed light on few things. There's a frequent charge by marketing critics that marketers create need, or marketers get people to buy things they don't want. Marketers do not create needs. Needs pre-exist marketers. Marketers, along with other influencers in the society, influence wants. They promote the idea that a Mercedes would satisfy a person's need for social status. Marketers, however, do not create the need for social status. Marketers influence demand by making the product appropriate, attractive, affordable, and easily available to target consumers. Now, people satisfy their needs and want with goods and services. We will use the term products to cover both. So let's look at what is product. So product is anything that can be offered to satisfy a need or want. Right? The importance of physical product lies not so much is in owning them, but obtaining the services they render. We don't buy a car to look at it, but because it supplies a transportation service. We don't buy a microwave oven to admire, but because it supplies a cooking service. Thus, physical products are really vehicles that deliver service to us. It's very important. Physical products are really vehicles that deliver service to us. In fact, services are also supplied by other vehicles such as persons, place, activities, organizations, and ideas. If we are bored, we can attend a comedy club and watch a comedian. We can travel to a vacation place, or we can do some physical exercise or join some club and all. Therefore, we will use the term product to cover physical products, service product, and other vehicles that are capable of delivering satisfaction of want or need. Occasionally, we will use other terms for product such as offering, satisfiers, and resources also. Manufacturers often make a mistake of paying more attention to their physical product than to the services the product produced by the products. They see themselves as selling a product rather than providing a solution to a need. Yet, a woman isn't buying a lipstick, she's buying a hope. A carpenter isn't buying a drilling machine, but is buying a hole. A physical object is a means of packaging a service. Very, very important. It's a means of packaging a service. Marketer's job is to sell benefits or services built into the products rather than just describe the physical features. Sellers who concentrate their thinking on physical product instead of customers' need are said to suffer from marketing myopia. Right? Look at the product definition. You can get a lot of insights. So now we have seen product. We have seen need, want, and demand. Now let's see how customer chooses a product. Let's look at it once more. We come to the core concept of value, cost, and satisfaction. How do consumers choose among the many products that might satisfy a given need? Let's take an example of Jones. Suppose Jones needs to travel 3 miles to work every day. Right? Number of products could satisfy the need, like roller skaters, a bicycle, a motorcycle, an automobile, a taxi cab, or a bus. These alternatives constitutes his product choice set. Assume that Jones would like to satisfy several additional needs in traveling to work, namely speed, safety, ease, and economy. We call this as need set. Now each product has a different capacity to satisfy these various needs. This bicycle will be slower, less safe, and more effortful than an automobile, but it will be more economical. Somehow, Jones has to decide which product will deliver the most total satisfaction. A guiding concept is customer value. Jones will form an estimate of capacity of each product to satisfy his set of needs. He might rank the product from the most need satisfying to least need satisfying. Value is the customer's estimate of product's overall capacity to satisfy his or her need. We can ask Jones to imagine a characteristics of an ideal product for the task. Jones might answer, ideal product would get him to the place of work in a split second with absolute safety, no efforts and zero cost. Then the value of each actual product would depend on how close it comes to the ideal product characteristics. Suppose Jones is primarily interested in speed and the ease of getting to work. If Jones were offered any of this product at no cost, we would predict that he would choose automobile. But now comes the rub. Since each product involves cost, he will not necessarily buy automobile. Automobile costs substantially more than, say, a bicycle. John will have to give up more of other things to obtain a car. Therefore, he will consider the product's value and price before making a choice. He will choose the product that will produce the most value per rupee. Today's consumer behavior theorists have gone beyond narrow economic assumptions of how consumers form value judgments and make product choices. These theories are important to marketers because the whole marketing plan rests on assumptions about how customers make choices. Therefore, the concept of value, cost, and satisfaction are crucial to the discipline of marketing. Now, having seen this, let's come to another very important concept in marketing: exchange, transaction, and relationship. The fact that people have need and want and can place value on product does not fully define marketing. Marketing emerges when people decide to satisfy needs and wants through exchange. Exchange is one of four ways people can obtain products. The first way is self-production. He can produce himself. Second is coercion. He can put a gun to someone's head and get that product what he wants. Third way is begging. He can beg for that product. Fourth is exchange. People approach other and offer a resource in exchange, such as money or another good or a service. Marketing arises from this last approach to acquiring product. Exchange is the act of obtaining a desired product from someone by offering something in return. Exchange is defining concept underlining marketing. For exchange to take place, five conditions must be satisfied. There are at least two parties. Each party has something that might be of value to the other party. Each party is capable of communicating and delivery. Each party is free to accept or reject the offer. Each party believes it is appropriate or desirable to deal with other party. If we have all the conditions, then we can say exchange can happen. Whether exchange actually takes place depends upon whether the two parties can agree on terms of exchange that will leave both of them satisfied. This is the sense in which exchange is described as value creating process. That is, exchange normally leaves both parties better off than before the exchange. Exchange must be seen as a process rather than an event. Two parties are said to be engaged in an exchange if they are negotiating and moving towards an agreement. If an agreement is reached, we say that a transaction takes place. Transactions are basic unit of exchange. Transaction consists of trade of value between two parties. I go to B and give X and B gives me Y in return. That's a transaction. If I give money and I get a product, it's called monetary transaction. If I give a good or service and get good or service in return, it's barter transaction, right? Transaction involves several dimensions, at least two things of value, agreed upon agreed upon conditions, time of agreement, and place of agreement. All of this thing must be there, right? And usually a legal system arises to support and enforce compliance on part of the transactors. This is how business law came into being. Transaction can easily give rise to conflict based on misinterpretation of the conditions. Without a law of contract, people would approach transaction with some distrust. Everyone would lose. So businesses maintain a lot of records so that the transaction is kept clear. A transaction differs from transfer. Now there are two concepts. When an exchange happens, either it can lead to a transaction wherein there is an exchange, or you can also have a transfer. Now what's transfer? Transfer differs from transaction in the way A is giving B some product X, but B is not giving anything in return. That's a transfer. It would seem that marketing should be confined to study of transaction and not transfer. However, transfer behavior can also be understood to the concept of exchange. Typically, the transfer has certain expectations upon giving a gift, such as receiving gratitude or seeing a good behavior in the recipient, or expecting that he will buy more items after testing a sample, right? So when I'm giving a sample or a free test or something free, I have an expectation that the other party will look at the principle of reciprocal and give something in return, right? The principle of reciprocal states that if you give something to someone, that someone will also give back something in return. That's the principle of reciprocal. Otherwise, he will feel awkward, right? In the most generic sense, marketers is seen to elicit a behavioral response from another party, right? A business firm wants a response called buying. A political candidate wants a response called voting. A club wants a response called joining. A social action group wants a response called adopting an idea. Right? Marketing consists of action undertaken to elicit desired response to some object from target audience. So, marketing it consists of actions undertaken to elicit desired response to some object from target audience. That is what we do. To effect successful exchange, the marketer analyzes what each party expects to give and get, and then he maps out the two party. So how are the wants and offer flowing between the two parties? If this is studied properly, and when we start working in a particular process, it generates a lot of systems and processes for sales or for marketing or marketing campaigns and something like that, right? So the process of trying to arrive at a mutual agreeable term is called negotiation, and negotiation leads to either mutually acceptable terms or a decision not to transact, right? So transaction marketing is a part of a larger idea that is called relationship marketing, right? So what is relationship marketing? Smart marketers try to build up a long-term trusting win-win relationship with with their valued customers, or for that matter even distributor, dealers and suppliers. That is accomplished by promising and delivering high quality goods services and also giving fair prices to other parties over time. It is accomplished by building strong economic, technical, and social ties with other parties. Relationship marketing cuts down on transaction cost and time. In the best cases, transaction moves from being negotiated each time to being routinized. So, ultimate outcome of relationship marketing is building of a unique company asset called marketing network. And what is the operating principle? Marketing network consists of company and its suppliers, its distributors and its customers with which it has built solid dependable business relationship. Marketing is shifting from trying to maximize profit on each individual transaction to maximizing mutually beneficial relationship with other parties. The operating principle now in marketing is to build good relationship and profitable transaction will follow. That is the core operating principle of marketing nowadays. Thank you.